There are only 4 weeks left in the NFL season, and we've got half a league within a few games of the playoffs, while simultaneously being within a game or two of a top 10 draft pick. Whether you're looking for an edge in fantasy, betting, or just bragging rights in your office pick'em pool, I have risen from the dead with your NFL playoff predictions. Warning, this may include spoilers for the rest of the 2021 NFL season. For those of you that have been wondering where I've been at this year, I'll get into that at the end of the video, but I do see and I appreciate your support. It has been a learning experience though, and if this video gets picked up by the YouTube algorithm, then I'll update this each week until the playoffs get here. Let's set the goal for 500 likes before Thursday Night Football of this week. I'm using ESPN's NFL Playoff Machine because it looks fancy, but I'm also using playoffpredictors.com just to double check their math. I'm gonna go week by week and predict the playoff seeding, matchups, and eventually the Super Bowl winner. And then in a few weeks, I will come back and I will do it all over again with the exact playoff bracket and really nail this thing down. But I gotta say, with this extra week of football, these final records look just weird as Let's get into it. You'll see what I mean. Let's dive into week 15 real quick. I'm not going to go in depth for every single game because we got a lot to go over in this video, but these are going to be my picks for week 15. I've got the Chargers pulling an upset over the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football, which could decide the AFC West. The Browns keep it going against the reeling Raiders. I think it's going to require a little bit more of a volume passing game to beat this Colts defense. The Bills get off the schneid and beat their farm squad for their head coach. I think the Dolphins will keep winning ugly games against bad teams. Minshew Mania is too much for the fighting Kyle Allens. That just doesn't have the same ring to it as fighting Heineke's. The Cardinals, they get to enjoy a late season bye week. I think the Texans take their turn kicking Urban Meyer when he's down. The Cowboys, they win one more for Jason Garrett. The Titans, they struggle with bad teams and beat the good ones, so that means that this one might be close, but Titans still win. The Bengals struggle against this Broncos secondary, but Teddy Bridgewater cannot beat good teams with checkdowns. Let's go with the Bengals. The 49ers are going to get their revenge for this last year's matchup. Tyler Huntley is not going to be able to beat this Packers defense. The Rams really start to build momentum against a shell of the Seahawks. I think the Bucs will put the Saints out of their misery, and then Justin Fields will get his statement game on Monday Night Football to juice up Bears fans for the future. Now let's sim ahead to the playoffs and see how the playoff landscape is looking. Alright, as you can see, the number 1 seeds end up being the Tennessee Titans in the AFC and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC. That means they would receive the only bye week in their respective conference, and the road to the number 1 seed is much easier for the Titans than it is the Packers, but both teams essentially control their destiny towards forcing the playoffs to come through their home stadiums. The very first thing that I noticed though when looking at this playoff landscape is how the Ravens were the odd man out. This shows how crucial one of these late season games can be, and having to play with a backup quarterback can destroy a once promising season. I even accounted for Lamar Jackson coming back, winning a couple down the stretch, and it still wasn't enough. But the Ravens have been playing uphill all season as they've been absolutely devastated by injuries with over 20 players on IR. The second thing I noticed is how much I hate this matchup for my Cowboys. Some of y'all know how I feel about the NFL dictating these playoff games with their BS, and often a team has to beat their opponents and the referees if they want to advance to the next stage of this NFL tournament. The LA teams are the NFL's darling this year, not only because the Super Bowl is in LA, but because the NFL needs and wants their LA presence to thrive, and it's no secret that the Rams are all in on this year. So yeah, I'm terrified of drawing the Rams in the wild card. I at least want to enjoy one playoff win before the refs choke on their flag after pretending like they didn't see some obvious penalty. Not like that's ever happened before. Anyways, as you can see, I am buying the Minshew Mania Kool-Aid, and that's mostly because the Eagles are only competing with Washington and the 49ers for one of the 2 final spots in the NFC wildcard. The top 5 seeds are pretty much locked in. It's just a matter of deciding the official order at this point. As long as the Eagles don't lose to Washington, they can finish with 8 wins and they're still going to be in. I think that the juiciest wildcard weekend matchup has to be Chiefs versus Bengals, but remember, the Chargers likely need to win on Thursday Night Football this week just so we can get this scenario. Based on my projections for the rest of the season, this is how much of a difference this Thursday night matchup between the Chiefs and the Chargers makes. If we flip it, the whole AFC gets reseeded and we'll actually get a third matchup between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Alright, now let's predict how the rest of these playoffs are going to play out, starting with the AFC. In the AFC wildcard round, I like for the Chargers to get some revenge on the Patriots. I think that the Bills are going to be too much for the Colts to keep up with offensively, especially in the Buffalo conditions. And then I've got the Chiefs shifting to playoff mode and getting past the Bengals on the road. That brings us to the divisional round where we've got Bills versus Chargers and Chiefs versus Titans. I feel like Justin Herbert is coming into his own right now, and we're about to watch him really put on a performance. So give me the Chargers to win this one. And then I've actually got the Chiefs Brady's falling short against the Titans, who might have Derrick Henry back, but it's going to need to be Julio Jones and AJ Brown reaching their full potential at this point. But real quick, now let's check out the NFC side of things. In the wild card, the Bucs get a nice warm-up matchup versus the 49ers, and Jimmy G gets stunned by Tom Brady one more time. I've got the Cardinals flexing on the Eagles, and like I said, the NFL will get the Rams to advance at all costs at least one time, which brings us to the divisional round, where we have Cardinals at Buccaneers and the Rams at the Packers. We got Tom Brady showing Cliff Kingsbury that he is in fact the fairest looking man in all of the football land, and Matthew Stafford gets little brother by Aaron Rodgers one more time for old time's sake in Lambeau, leaving us with the Chargers, Titans, Buccaneers, and Packers for the NFL's Final Four. And yeah, this is not what I would have expected, honestly. I've probably got this AFC matchup wrong because as of today, it lacks the star power that the NFL looks for in these games, so the Chiefs will probably find their way into this game somehow. But if the Titans have Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, and just give me at least 70% of a Julio Jones for the playoffs, I am betting on them repping the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. If they don't, one of these AFC West teams will beat them at some point, I think. But the scenario that I want to see is the former, so I'm riding with the Titans for now. This NFC Championship matchup is a rematch that I'm sure the NFL wants. You've got the GOAT versus the BOAT. I just heard of that recently, which is pretty clever. The best of all time versus the greatest of all time. The NFL did not get as many number 12 versus number 12 matchups as they probably would have liked during their illustrious NFL careers. So now that Brady is in the NFC, they're just milking it. I want to say that Aaron Rodgers gets one over Brady, who's pretty much owned Rodgers in most of their matchups of the past. But Tom Brady is playing like a god among men right now, and I really could see him doing the damn thing once again. The Buccaneers are still stacked, and I've got them running it back to the Super Bowl. So there you have it. Super Bowl 56 is Titans versus Buccaneers. I hate to predict a repeat winner because those are just so boring to me, and sometimes I'll pick against the grain just to be different, but I just don't see a team that I trust to turn it on like I do with this Buccaneers roster and their coaching staff. But don't forget, last year the Buccaneers were 7-5 and looking like a pretty mediocre team before they shifted it on and made a run to the Super Bowl. So it really is anybody's game at this point still. But real quick, before we end this video, I want to show you the 2022 NFL draft order based on the final standings that I have predicted here. So type in mock draft order in the comments if you want to see me do a mock draft with this order, in fact, or if I should just use the standard current orders like everybody else. That's going to do it for my playoff predictions as of week 15. Remember, if you guys show enough love on this, I'll update these each week. Otherwise, I'll focus on some other stuff and see you guys again in a couple weeks once we have a little shakeup maybe in the standings, or I see something change or deviate my predictions enough to where they should just be thrown in the trash. Or hey, maybe you think they should be thrown in the trash before the week even starts. I'm sure you guys will let me know. Playoff time always brings out the nicest in fans. But thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Oh, that's right. I will address where I've been and what's been going on with me here, in case you didn't see my last video or you've been wondering why I just dropped off with the pick'em videos. And honestly, it's just because it's been a really tough year from a professional standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from a family standpoint. And then on top of all of that, I contracted hand, foot, and mouth from my kids and my wife and got this like super extreme version that left me with like these sores on my hands where I couldn't even touch things. I was icing my hands like every 20 minutes because they were in that much pain. And that was right before Thanksgiving. So I kind of felt like, you know what, if this isn't a sign to just sit back and try and enjoy my young little family here during the holidays, then I don't know what is. So I took a little break from everything and just focused on being present with my family and my kids. But I must have gotten a little too close and a little too friendly with them, because then all of a sudden, first week of December, all 5 of us test positive for We are all fine. Luckily, we got a very mild case of it coming through our house. I actually kind of always thought that we had it back in March 2020. Long story there for maybe a future live stream, but I felt like that we had already had it. And now that we had this super mild case come through that was way more mild than the version that we had back in March of last year, only reassures me that we did in fact make it through, and that's why it was so mild this go round. But what do I know? None of us are scientists. We're all just kind of learning and guessing with this stuff as we go along. But yeah, that has been my November and the beginning of my December so far. I am feeling a lot better now. I will say the biggest thing that I've noticed when recording this was how much oxygen it actually requires to get on a microphone and say these things. I've noticed that my lung capacity was not quite up to what it used to be, and that's been a little discouraging. But all in all, my family is fortunate to have made it through somewhat unscathed. I did have to miss my buddy's wedding, but it was actually a pretty fortunate story that we didn't end up just going there with this mild cold that we thought was just a mild cold, and spreading COVID all over his wedding. But anyways, here I am. I'm back. I'm gonna do these videos for the playoffs. I'm gonna really get going for this upcoming draft season. I'm pretty excited about it. I hope everybody else out there is doing well. I am sorry about the Pick'em League, but I've still been making my picks in there. I have not been taking them as seriously though, and I've definitely been falling off from the early hot streak that I had. But hey, this happens sometimes with seasons, right? I got put on the IR. Now I've been designated to return. So I'm back. Hopefully you guys are here and we can enjoy the rest of this football season together. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.